Hi everybody.
Hello.
I'm Val.
And I'm Lily.
And this is the Psychosocial Thinkers channel.
Its aim, it's trying to understand the interconnectedness between the individual and the social. So it's trying to understand how both the external and the seemingly only internal functions and structures and are constantly kind of overlapping each other, always in an exchange, kind of feeding into each other and imprinting into each other. We can't study the individual without knowing where the individual is situated.
And we cannot study the individual without exploring the internal psychic life. And
So
oneself.
it needs to be a combination of both.
Yeah.
But also, on the other hand, to study the social, we also need to look at the individual. We can't just look at the grander, bigger structures. We also need to understand what kind of internal psychic functions might be contributing to certain social behaviors.
We try to explore the social structures and symbolic presence which acts upon all of us, and to kind of track it down in history in order to make meaning of it, in order to make sense of what's going on now, because everything is inevitably connected.
I suppose with the psychosocial family that we had at Birkbeck, the one thing that's really unique about our group as well is that we come from different backgrounds, social backgrounds, gendered backgrounds as well, and historical backgrounds for that matter. So that makes us a very good foundation.
We felt necessary to create Psychosocial Thinkers in order to create space and time for conversation of important social and political issues, and of exploring our internal psychic lives and seeing how those are reflected onto our social world and how those social and political processes affect. We aim to uncover social and political power that acts and affects every single one of us in various ways, and to explore how do we function, how do we cope, how do we have a psychic life of our own within that social space.
Really important for us is to move kind of psychosocial thinking outside of the university, outside of academia, and make it more approachable, more available, more easily accessible for anyone, really.
I like the word you use with regards to structures, and at the same time struggles wherein all of us are in different forms, we're in a structure. But what is important, and we should not miss as well when you say struggle, is that to a certain degree we all go through different struggles from a social point of view and a psychological point of view, and that's what psychosocial studies is all about.
Yeah.
It's really trying to understand the different forms of struggles that we all have in common, regardless of historical background, gendered background, class background. You put everything on the mix, and then at the end of the day, the one thing that is in common in all of us is that we all go through a form of struggle. And I think this is one thing that psychosocial thinkers is all about, is that trying to understand what struggles we all have.
Yeah.
And trying to put that into a very subjective lived experience as well.
And even though we come from a completely different ways, and I cannot maybe have the feeling of the embodied experience that you went through, what connects us is really that we both went through that struggle, which is inflicted by the same social structures, or not the same social structures, but still aiming to have some sort of hegemonic power over discourse.
What a lot of us expressed was a feeling of isolation or alienation, or somehow a disconnect. And I think as we carried on with our studies, as we kind of connected together as a group, I think we realised the value of actually being together in a space and sharing our experiences as a collective.
There was obviously something that was missing when we were sat as individuals, so we obviously all made our way to this course for whatever reason, and then found ourselves in this collective space that wasn't always didn't always feel nice or healthy even, or productive. Sometimes it felt the opposite of those things, but now I look back on it and think all those things that made it feel so difficult and painful and horrible was obviously this coming together of all of us as individuals into this collective space, all coming from different backgrounds, from different life experiences, all wanting to think and talk about all these different things. And that's where all this painful friction was. Looking back on it, what was really profound about this whole experience, because obviously in that friction was where things were happening, where our brains were being forced to think about all these different things and grapple with things that we hadn't thought about before, or that we didn't want to think about.
Actually, the tension between us, the tension between our differences was in the end quite productive. And the amazing thing about it was that because we were together, we could actually hold each other in that space, and we could actually learn from each other.
The idea behind psychosocial thinkers is that it's not going to be limited to looking at one certain or specific thing, or in one certain specific way. So obviously we've come together through an academic setting, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be an academic project. It's not. It's more so we can look at all these different things: gender and sexuality, race, racism, anti-Semitism, all these different things that we contend with in everyday life, but to think about those things in a way that explores them critically and that can in some way form a resistance to these structures that we constantly come up against but currently have no way to really articulate or resist.
If you want to see more of what we do and get involved, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube and Instagram under Psychosocial Thinkers, and as well on our website www.psychosocial.com.